Hi everyone, welcome to our session on theories of crime in South Africa. These slides cover the content of Learning Unit 2, Theme 2, which looks at our social structure theories. Here are our outcomes for theme number 2. Social disorganization is defined as the inability of a community to regulate itself. Social organization is maintained by a group's commitment to social rules, and when this commitment breaks down, social control breaks down as well. Members of the Chicago School and many contemporary criminologists believe that this breakdown in social control could occur through ecological changes, such as when a community experiences rapid population change through social mobility and even migration. An area known as the zone of transition was found to have the highest crime rate. This zone is close to your CBD or central business district and consequently areas of population transition. These areas of high crime were also characterized by overcrowding, physical deterioration, concentrations of minority and foreign-born residents, concentrated poverty, lack of home ownership, lack of locally supported community organizations, and also concentrations of unskilled and unemployed workers. Sean McKay found that as the distance from your zone of transition increases, the crime rates tended to decrease as well. One of Sean McKay's most important observations was that the relative levels of delinquency and crime in local communities tended to remain stable over many years despite the changing ethnic and racial composition in these areas. So a city area with high rates of delinquency compared to other areas would tend to remain that way, as well as would an area with low rates relative to another. In Sean McKay's view, the only way to combat the tendency for areas to become permanently crime-prone was to develop neighborhood organizations that could help promote informal social controls and also encourage residents to look out for each other's welfare. According to Merton, a state of anomie exerts pressure on people to commit crime, and he came up with his anomie theory. So while all societies establish rules to attain culturally supported goals, these means and goals are not always in a state of harmony or integration. So the way that a society or group is organized interferes with the attainment of valued goals by acceptable means for some of its members. A condition of anomie or strain therefore exists. So strain is the lack of fit between socially desirable goals and the socially acceptable means to achieve those goals. Merton believes that various modes of adaptation are possible in response to the strain resulting from unrealized expectations, and these are conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. So many people will conform. Merton believes that conformity reflects a social acceptance of the rule of law. Other people may engage in ritualism, so they give up on the goals, but they continue to support the socially approved means. They cling to the safe routines and institutionalized norms that they've become accustomed to. Others reject both the means and the goals, and this retreatism is an adaptation to anomic conditions in which people may even withdraw from society altogether. So some people substitute new sets of norms and goals, and Merton calls this adaptation rebellion. So the adaptation that Merton says or identifies most closely with crime is innovation. So innovators will accept the goals, but they reject the institutional means and substitute illegal alternatives. Merton uses innovation to explain the relatively high rates of property crime among your lower class and your minority segments of society. Their disadvantaged status, along with high cultural priority given to material success as a goal, makes high rates of crime a normal outcome for these segments of society. A number of theories focus on what is called the delinquent subculture. Any heterogeneous society is likely to have a parent or dominant culture and a variety of different subcultures. The dominant culture consists of beliefs, attitudes, values, ideas, norms that are shared by those who regularly make up the membership of a society. Subcultures differ from the dominant culture and consist of beliefs, values, and lifestyles shared by those members of society who belong to that identifiable subgroup. A delinquent subculture is defined as one in which certain forms of delinquent activity are essential for the performance of the dominant role supported by the subculture. However, even in its support of delinquent activities, a delinquent subculture may nevertheless also share aspects of the dominant culture. In general, your subcultural theories of crime and delinquency start with the assumption that people are socialized into the norms and values of the immediate groups to which they belong. So in a sense, all people are conformists. However, the values and norms with which they conform may be different from those of your dominant culture, and the behaviors that result can sometimes be illegal. So in other words, some kinds of conformity turn out to be delinquent or criminal. One of the first sociologists to propose a subcultural explanation of delinquency was Albert Cohen. And Cohen suggested that high rates of lower class delinquency reflect a basic conflict between lower class youth subcultures and the dominant middle class culture. So the delinquent subculture arises as a reaction to the dominant culture, which is seen as discriminating against lower class people. So being told in school and elsewhere to strive for middle class goals and to behave according to middle class values puts lower class youths in a difficult position because they find that their socialization has not prepared them for the challenge. They become status frustrated, and as a result of their inability to meet those middle class standards, and in reaction, they turn to delinquent activities and they form delinquency-centered groups. Cohen describes the delinquency that results as non-utilitarian. So, for example, stealing just for fun. Or it could be malicious, so they enjoy the discomfort of other people. And even negativistic, where they take pride in doing things because they are wrong by a middle-class standard. Cloward and Olin develops a theory of delinquency and youth crime that incorporates the concept of opportunity structures. So they point out that society provides both legitimate and illegitimate opportunities for behavior, and these opportunities, whether they are legitimate or not, meet different kinds of needs. Some help a person achieve status, and others help a person achieve economic success. Not all youths aspire to the same things, and Cloud and Olin believe that those youths who aspire to economic success but are denied legitimate opportunities to achieve it are at the greatest risk of becoming involved in gang subcultures. Cloud and Olin identify 3 delinquent subcultures to which lower class youths may belong, and that help structure a youngster's response to the absence of legitimate opportunities. The first one is your criminal subculture, and this is characterized by illegal money-making activities, and often it provides a stepping stone towards adult criminal careers. They tend to arise in areas where relatively well-organized age hierarchies of criminal involvement exist, and this condition provides youths with adult criminal role models and encourages their recruitment into money-making crime. The second is your conflict subculture. These are dominated by gang fighting and other violence. They arise in disorganized areas with weak social controls, an absence of institutionalized channels, whether they're legal or not, in order to maintain those material goals, and a predominance of personal failure. So violence is then seen as a route to status as well as a release for pent-up frustration. And finally, our retreatist subculture is marked by the prevalence of drug use and addiction. This subculture arises as an adaptation for some lower class youths who have failed in both the criminal and conflict subcultures, or who have not successfully accessed either the legitimate or illegitimate opportunity structures. The content for these slides was taken from Prescribed Material 2, Explaining Crime, a Primer in Criminological Theory.